Good afternoon, hello, and wherever you are, we want to say this is 2A Radio, the African Action Network radio and television station. Today is a different day as far as our discussion is concerned, and this is 2A Radio. We are introducing a new program, and this program is all about the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. Today, our discussions surrounding the issues within the preamble of the Constitution. Howbeit, we also going to give some little highlight on the historical aspect of the Liberian Constitution, where this country, Liberia, came from. To join me in the discussion, we have with us Councillor Arthur Tamabayo Johnson, the youngest lawyer on the block, the man who has made history. This young man, Liberians are proud of him. Some of you who were fortunate to see the young man displaying his talent during the impeachment of one of the justices, you are aware of the situation surrounding Justice Kabila Janet. This is the man with me today. He's Arthur Tamabayo Johnson. Arthur, what does bio mean? You get it kind of, I would love to call that Arthur Tamabayo Johnson. Arthur is a very good friend of mine. We all went to law school together. I know his potency. So, yeah. Howbeit, share the video, and wherever you are, join us. You can make your comment or you can ask a question right below this post. Arthur, welcome to 2A Radio. Arthur, you are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said thank you very much, Jensen.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to this program. And I'd like to extend my greetings also to our Liberians in and out of this country who are following the program. Thanks so much.
Okay. Arthur, before we start the discussion, I just want to throw in something later. That impeachment, how? You should I say you outperformed during that impeachment trial? We're talking about the Constitution here. We're now going to impeachment issues here. Yeah. How were you really afraid, or because that was your first time, right?
Yeah. That was my first time taking part in an impeachment proceeding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But basically, when you've been an active courtroom lawyer, there is no fear. The only area that there is a fear in the lawyer, even for the first time, mainly for the first time and throughout when you're appearing, and then before you get used to it, is the Supreme Court. Once you have gotten that experience to appear before the justices of the Supreme Court, because it's not an easy thing to stand before 5 justices of the Supreme Court as a lawyer to argue. Jensen, you can have a box folder, you must know the folder, the pages, page by page, because there are times you start to argue before those 5 wise persons or people, and somebody will just take your ballon with a question and say, well, let's go to the first sheet or the first page or the last page of your document. There is a document. What do you say? So you must be someone that must have an intellectual wherewithal of the entire case far before you appear. So to appear before these people and you get used to that process, you can appear anywhere to discuss a legal issue. And
okay, that's good. That's good. Arthur, and me, I just try to throw that in. But today we have with us Arthur Tamabayo Johnson. And Arthur, let's go strictly into our discussion. the uh, the Constitution of Liberia. And today our focus is we want to discuss the preamble of the Constitution. But before the preamble of the Constitution, um, the name Liberia, where did it come from?
Well, our name, our country Liberia derives from the word liberty.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, the free land of liberty. And then even to some extent, the Monrovia, the city of Monrovia, if we all those of us that follow, it was also named after the fifth president of the United States, Morum. So obviously, most of what we did in Liberia is a direct copy, is a prototype of the American political system and culture. And that is why you see most of the time people feel and believe that uh, they are Americans, even though the Liberians have that mentality that look, they are the children or small brothers or little brothers or nephew or uncles of the United States. But that the United States government does not look at it from that policy perspective. They always see that it's partnership and they are willing. But the reason Liberians think like that is because of the history and
Hmm.
the way Liberia was established.
They
Liberia
always
was,
say that partnership.
yeah, the legacy goes to the point that Liberia copied almost everything from the United States of America. And that's why you see sometimes I always argue, although some of the young scholars coming always say, no, no, no. I always said that Liberia was established by the Americans, by the United States of America. When I
Hmm.
say I speak on that, I speak on that issue on the basis of the political and philosophical undertoning of the variables that led to the establishment of the Liberian state. The America's stand at the time in the establishment of the country Liberia was not about, they never wanted to be known as the colonizing another state because they were already against slavery in America. So for this reason, they used the ACS, even though funds were taken from the American government, from Congress,
Hmm.
promulgated by members of Congress to support gave the ACS money in order to settle and be able to govern Liberia. But technically, from historical perspective and the change of politics and history, Liberia was established by the United States of America through the ACS. ACS was just being used as a tool directly to deal with it so that America should not be known and seen as colonizing another African state when they are indeed fighting against slavery. You know.
I think you are right because I have read document from the Library of Congress, and indeed there is a document that I saw that there were several colonization within the United States. Like you had the Pennsylvania Colonization Society, the
Right.
Virginia Colonization Society, the Massachusetts Colonization Society, and the North Carolina Colonization Society. All of these people, there are resolutions, that they all passed by their respective states and to give boost to the American Colonization Society so that these people would have relocated free slaves to Africa. And then, how did they get the land? They used taxpayers' resources to purchase the piece of land in Liberia. And
Correct.
as a result of that, that's how the name Liberia came about. The question I sometimes ask myself, and I have not found answer at all, is what was the name of the village or town or the area that the natives occupied before the Liberia began to be known? Have you ever had any idea on that? As some like those kind of a thought
Yeah, there were
pass.
a lot of places, like the Jalatan area, they used to call it Kondo. Kondo, in a sense, it was like a country. That whole Jalatan was like a chiefdom. It was
Okay.
like a country. They had the tribes segmented and they had their own democracy in a form.
Mm.
But they also, because what they were doing is that if the king is powerful to control his own domain, like
Mm.
for instance, from the whole Jalatan Hill all the way up there, going almost to Crown Hill there, it was being called Kondo.
Okay.
I think you've been hearing say anything like say Kondo restaurant those days,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but that's where that name come from. But in that particular area now, those our tribes were living as chiefdoms,
Right.
headed by kings, and these kings had their own people like representatives or legislators or circle of advisors that they call. the elders. The king does not take a decision in the absence of the elders of that particular society. So they were almost like small pockets of countries or chiefdoms on their own
Okay.
established. That is how it was when the follower settlers came, in
Okay.
which we intend to go further. That's why you see, if you look at the preamble of the Constitution,
Right.
if you see the 1986 Constitution, Jensen, the framers of the Constitution was very clear. They were very philosophical, and they first placed it in certain things in there. Where the first thing, in fact, I like the way you outlined the preamble. The preamble there. You see, first of all, it say we the people.
Right.
Now, this issue of we the people, what they were talking about were the composition of they themselves and the accession of the natives into their system of government at the
Okay.
time. That's what they were talking about, we the people.
Before you continue, let me inform our listeners. We are not going so deep in the Constitution. This is not a constitution, not constitution. We are not going so deep in the history of Liberia. There's so much information if we were to focus on the history of Liberia. This program is intended to discuss the Constitution, laws, and the things that affect you. Your day-to-day activities surround this Constitution. There's nothing that you do that is not in the face of the Constitution and the laws of the Republic. Sorry, so you can continue. You were talking about the element of the preamble.
Yeah, the elements of the preamble. So you talk about we the people.
Right.
Okay. And when you talk about we the people, even within the Declaration of Independence of Liberia, okay, you will see that they acknowledge, the settlers acknowledge, like historic Hilary Teach, Benedict, all of them. They acknowledge the people that they were talking about. Those of them who wanted peace, those of them who wanted freedom, that were taken from the shores of America, or that were taken from the United States or other areas, the Hittites and what have you, the Indians, and they came to Liberia, as well as those indigenous that they met on the land, the natives. Categorically, they mentioned that particular group of persons in the Declaration of Independence. So the preamble of the Constitution of Liberia captures that significantly. It captures it. Unlike the Declaration of the Constitution of 1847 is not like the way the preamble is within the 1986 Constitution.
Okay.
Because the 1847 Constitution, which was subsequently amended to 1956 and 55, went together at the convention with the Declaration of Independence in the assembly. Yeah, that's how it went together. So in substance, they believe that the historical document that will lead to the promulgation of the 1847 Constitution is the Declaration of Independence. So that's where one of the areas that you can actually look at the preamble to know the intent of the Constitution.
Okay.
The intent of the Constitution. The Declaration of Independence tells you that when you take your time to read the Declaration of Independence. In fact, it made a lot of revelations, but I will come to that. And in the Declaration of Independence, students of history of political science will also see to identify some of the issues that are embedded in that document that have affected and that still continue to affect our society today in our Liberian political system. But then you see that they recognize the people, then the right to statehood, because of the issue of colonization. America was willing to support and have been supporting the Republic of Liberia, the Liberian colony at the time. But America did not want to be the first even to recognize Liberia. America advanced, even when we came to this land, our people, most of the time when the French were using the policy of nabling, the issue of statehood, I'm telling you, and I'm trying to give you the issue of statehood is when the settlers, when we had all of the French aggressors in Abidjan, in Africa Coast, and in Guinea, as well as having the British in Sierra Leone, they were taking portion of Liberian land. Each time they took, that's why you see, if you even go certain part of Africa, you will see the cornerstone of Liberia in the space. Those were all places for Liberia. Now, but for each time the French took about 10 acres or maybe about 10 miles, they go 10 miles in the Liberian land. At that time, which it was a colony, when Liberia
Mm-hmm.
cried to the international community and cried to America, the international community, then the French will go back after taking 10 miles, they will go back 5 miles. So the other 5 miles will remain. So they use what we call the policy of nabbling, the French.
Okay.
That way they were using.
Mm-hmm.
So Liberia went to America, were calling through the ACS that the people are encroaching on the land again that you have bought for us, for which we have to establish the nation. So they said the only advance you need, the only advance is that try to establish yourself as an independent state. If you are an independent nation, no one will encroach on your land because you will be a sovereign nation. That was the advance of the United States government
Okay.
from the Congress. So it also went with the issue of Sierra Leone. The Ghanaian territory in Sierra Leone, we had a very big portion up there. But you know, at the time, there was certain part in Cape Mount there, all the way going inside Bo Kenema area. The the VAR tribe were controlling all of that area by the Mende. And then they allowed the British business people to come to, let's say, dig or mine gold and diamond in that particular area. At a particular time, they realized that the British business people who came on the Liberian shore at the time digging were exploiting their land, taking gold, minerals, and at the same time just giving them fish or other small things, cooking utensils, cutlasses, and what have you. So they got vexed and demonstrated and caused a riot and made all of these people to lose most of their things. When the British citizens and business people had the problem, they went to the British colony in Sierra Leone and maintained that, look, we have brought our investment here and the Liberian government had done this, so they got to pay our money back. So Havelock, who was the commander at the time, or they asked the Liberian government to give back the land, or else they will encroach and what they will share Monrovia. If they don't do it, they will share Monrovia. And so the Liberian government was now already equipped at that time,
Yeah.
was not even having a fitting army to stand the British soldiers on that level who were in Sierra Leone. So they use what we call the gunboat diplomacy. A student of political science history, they
Mm-hmm.
used the gunboat diplomacy in 1883. And in 1885, under international law, it was promulgated to be a standardized international norm that the territory now will not come to our Mano River. So they took a significant portion of the Liberian land. But by that time, Liberia was already established. Anyway,
Yeah.
Liberia was established as a country. But those were the things that were happening even after independence. But those were the major factors that led to this independence, the right to a statehood. So the
Yeah.
Declaration of Independence, Liberia declaring her independence, was on the basis of them to establish itself as a sovereign nation. That's that
But
second.
if I may ask you, since the Declaration of Independence and Liberia got her independence, those pieces of land, because I'm still understanding that there is a piece of land in Africa's Guinea and Sierra Leone,
That's
that
correct.
Liberia is yet to claim, or there has been no effort on the Liberian government. And I think before you can even come land issue, particularly so between countries, civil war could come about, or there might be not civil war, there might be a conflict between nations. And so, what do you think? Do you think Liberia has a genuine ownership to which they can go after those pieces of land?
In substance, there is something sometimes, Jensen, you see, there is something in the practice of law called the statute of limitation.
Mhm.
You know, Liberia, for the Sierra Leonean scenario, we signed an international instrument and document certifying as a government
Mhm.
that the property is owned, the land, the official international boundary between Sierra Leone and Liberia will be the Mano River, the Mano River area, that the bridge there,
Okay.
okay, where you see our people. So to come back now will be another fight, different fight legally in the International Court of Justice if Liberia has interest.
Right.
But there will
Yeah.
be other dynamics. But maybe Sierra Leone will argue under the doctrine of the statute of limitation. That, like, if you knew all of that, you waited for more than 100 and so
Right.
years.
Right.
Why you didn't raise the concern? Why you didn't raise the issue? But you assigned a document, you know. But interestingly, that's why even you see sometimes the United States government also play a low profile, did not really do what it was supposed to do at a particular time in most
Yeah.
of these things.
Okay.
Because
Let's. Yeah. I know we're gonna have I mean, this is something that we want to take our time to discuss the Constitution in its entirety. But for the purpose
Yes.
of the Constitution of the preamble, even in the preamble, as we might read it, is that there's emphasis on peace and tranquility within the African region. So maybe all of these factors taken into consideration, land conflict before, and those international partners wouldn't want to see Liberia going into any serious conflict, like between neighboring nations of ours. But let's look at the issue of religion. There's a big issue here, and let me inform the public that the purpose of discussing this matter is to look at the historicity. This country, Liberia, where did it come from to where it is? So, Arthur, what do you, the preamble? Let me see whether we can read the preamble in parts so that we can. Okay, the preamble says, "We, the people of the Republic of Liberia, acknowledging our devout gratitude to God for our existence as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and relying on His divine," now let's underscore that word, "on His divine guidance for our survival as a nation, realizing from many experiences during the course of our national existence, which culminated in the revolution of April 12, 1980, when our Constitution of July 26, 1847 was suspended, that all of our people, irrespective of history, tradition, creed, or okay." So I don't want to read all of this. The key issue there is there's this argument: was Liberia founded on Christian principle? What do you say about the Constitution? Maybe from past document, Declaration of Independence, to this 1986 Constitution.
Jensen, that's why you see I wrote in my book, my just recently published book, which is on Amazon, when I told you about the crisis, the factors that have led or that have been responsible for the Liberian political problem.
Yeah.
You talk about the crisis of identity. The crisis of identity when people try to appreciate themselves and make political decisions on the basis of their own identity, and to the extent where there is an exclusion of a particular group of persons based on their own identity. The first thing is that, to be frank with you, if you read the Declaration of Independence, the guys acknowledge Christianity in the Declaration of Independence.
That's true. I have seen that too, and
Yeah.
Even in this current preamble, if you look at it, Kinley is saying relying on His divine guidance. And then here is His divine, is in capital letter. His is capitalized, His divine guidance. Now, it's not because we're not discussing this because we want to alienate or we want to put a point of Christianity. We're looking at the history and what was then the text of the framers, what was in the framers' mind, who were they? So until you know your history before you go ahead. So yeah, I have to continue. You were since I just thought to say this
So
preamble also.
yeah, when like what the United States of America did, you know, if you read the Liberian political history, and you follow the American style, it's almost the same. America
Yeah.
also acknowledged God's
Yeah.
existence. Well, people like Jefferson, they were very careful
Right.
about separating the state from the church. They were very careful. I read a lot of documentaries on Thomas Jefferson, before one of his colleagues, Malison, who, when he was serving as ambassador in France at the time, to keep pushing and promulgating the policies, because the issue of the argument of combining the church with the state was highly supported by the states in the South in America. Like the Alabama, you see like Georgia, New Jersey, you see Virginia.
North Carolina, yes.
Yeah. Those were people that were actually pushing, but people like Jefferson were clear. They said, no, you can't do that. Even Laws, one of the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, was the one that decided, in fact, made a lot of opinions and ruling, because he was a follower of the legacy of Jefferson, that yes, he's a devoted Christian, but the church must be separated from the state.
The state.
What our people did, the American Liberians, the framers, switching power, my man. I like, bro.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What our people did was that they inserted it intentionally. Though they acknowledge that Liberia is a country that they believe they believe in God as the most powerful and divine, meaning that any religion that believes in God also is indeed can be a part of the process. But
Right.
specifically, if you go to the let's say the fourth and the third to the last paragraph of the Declaration of Independence,
Mm-hmm.
they acknowledge that they're coming in there being blessed by the Christian faith. Let me just read it quickly for you.
Yeah, got it.
It says that the native African bowing down with us before the altar of the living God declare that from us, feeble as we are, the light of Christianity has gone forth. While upon the cross of courses, the slave trade, a deadly blight has fallen as far as our influence extends. That is what they said. They in many of the paragraphs in here, they acknowledge that they establishing the state being blessed with the Christian religion.
Okay.
That is
Let,
where,
let, let, let's be careful here because I think this is where people will think, you know, we want people to join us in helping to understand the Constitution. This is not an intent to emphasize Christianity. We
no,
have
no, no,
already acknowledged, Preamble already acknowledged we the people. So it means the fact that you are in Liberia, you have alienable rights. You have right to the day-to-day affairs of that country. But historically, it must be noted where those people came from. Now, even the natives will argue, or some of those who are so much interested in the affairs of the natives, or want to to be, I don't want to use the word bias, but people who don't want to be open-minded will think that the native were denied because they have certain religious practice or some traditional practices. Even today,
correct.
the argument still remains.
Yes,
So, but the Constitution, as we speak, is the guiding book, is the primary book that we all that Liberia rely on. That's the law book one that everybody is to respect. So when we say that the funders uh, pray, and they even said from what you just read, they said what even those they met here bow with them in recognizing and worshiping God, and that was Christianity. So are Muslims, let me be straightforward. Are Muslims also consider under the Constitution of Liberia? I know somebody will say this is a question that we shouldn't be asking, but we cannot discuss without realizing all of these circumstances.
Jensen, the preamble of the 1986 Constitution is a correction of the crisis of identity that have been defined in the Declaration of Independence.
Mm.
Because in the Declaration of Independence, the settlers actually acknowledged only the Christian faith.
Okay.
That's what they did. In fact, let me tell you what they put another one. The fifth paragraph to the last.
Mhm.
They say, our churches for the worship of our Creator, everywhere to be seen, bear testimony to our purity and to our acknowledgement of His province.
Okay.
So, in context, the settlers, when they came from the foundation of Liberia, they established and acknowledged their Christian faith, and they put it into they put that into their historical documents. Now, so
That
when
is
you
that,
see
that is that is a fixed meaning of those who came and established Liberia, right?
exactly,
Okay.
that's what it is. So that's why you see that in the 1986 Constitution, if you go to the preamble,
Yeah.
then it says there that we, the Liberians, realizing our experiences
Right.
that caused 1980
Mhm.
to come, do hereby now acknowledge. You getting what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That this constitution, if you look at it, preamble, that portion of the preamble, it is actually saying in the nutshell that when Liberia was established up to present, based on the experience, there were issues. And these issues, the formation of Liberia, these issues were not resolved that became problems to the 19 that became prevalent to the extent that 1980 came into existence. And on the basis of this, now their constitution is hereby established to meet the following objectives.
Okay, but
That is why,
I think the fact that is written in the preamble,
yeah,
and realizing all his divine guidance, we know that there's one God, right?
correct.
And whether you are a Muslim or Christian or not, this is a deeper issue, and there could be people may differ with us the way we speak on these issues, but we're looking at the text of the Constitution, relying on his divine guidance. So I would think this is collective, meaning whether you are a Muslim, you are serving God. The
That's
God, the way
exactly
in
the
which we
United
all
States.
serve God, as far as the state is concerned.
The United States,
So
yeah, correct.
fine. So the 86 Constitution,
Yeah,
I guess the framers, those who wrote the 86 Constitution, also took, as you said, took into consideration all of the things that happened before the 1980,
yes.
and then they were trying to correct those things. Okay, so somebody is asking a question here, but we will get to that person's question later. Okay, now you spoke something about the before April 12, 1980. We don't want to dwell too much into history, but if you have anything to throw in there after, we will just give you the opportunity. I would think the colony, the 1847, and as you said already, the amendment of
1955.
1955. So all of these things are historical events that took place before 1980. So Liberia has struggled all along. I was looking at the calendar, I was reading some different resolutions that came from the different states of the United States that was supporting, free slaves to be relocated. And some of the wordings they are troubling. It's like some people
Yeah,
were really, what, let's get the people out of here. Those
exactly.
kind of a situation. But yet and still, Liberia, America has not failed Liberia. America has been there all along to help Liberia. But how do we, historically, do you think Liberia is in a better position right now? If we look at the preamble and look at all of the historical facts, what do you think? If you were to just throw a few words in there, what do you think? Is there any satisfactory nation or the purpose for establishing a society? Have we achieved that?
The purpose of establishing this, yeah, we have achieved that significantly. But you see, the problem is, Jensen, if you look at our preamble, like what that you have just outlined of the
Mhm.
preamble, the preamble of the 1986 Constitution speaks all to it. Normally, in other societies where they keep documentary history,
Mhm.
documents, I mean, you will find out that all of these things that were discussed by Red will sort of have the framers' intent.
Right.
What were their intent when they were deliberating? In other countries, or I don't know whether we have that, because one of the things I learned is that I observe is that everything that happened in Liberia is documented in the Library of Congress in the United States.
Yes.
The ACS up to the establishment of Liberia, everything. Do you know? You know that like Johnsonville that used to be called Bonsonville, okay?
Mhm.
Those places that the ACS had the people, you had the settlers sitting upriver, and so those places are adjudicated. You won't believe it. Just to digress a bit, I took a case they gone down to help somebody who land had been encroached upon based on the first settler, the first group of settlers that came to Liberia, that the government of Liberia, they call them the immigrants, the government of
Mhm.
Liberia was giving land to. You
Right.
know that all of these lands are adjudicated, and the deeds, the maps are in the Library of Congress. You won't believe it. I was
Wow.
surprised. Yeah, I was surprised when the lady gave me copy of the map showing her land. In fact, it's traced to one of the
Wow.
rice in this. Yes, they had the family, the rice, like the Condoleezza is Dr. Condoleezza Rice is related to. They have a property in Johnsonville that those days used to call Bonsonville, and the
Wow.
adjudicated map were able to obtain it from the Library of Congress to fight that case in court. You won't believe
Wow.
it, Johnson. Yeah, so
Wow.
they have everything about Liberia documented. They
That is
go,
true. That is true. That is true.
yeah,
In fact, uh, every time you want to make research, that's one area we can normally reference. Go to the Library of Congress, you'll get some. Even this map that you can see right here. I got
yeah,
it. I got it from out there, and I was looking at it very keenly. It's like those who struggled before they even landed on Liberia. You see the ship right in there, and then you see the like people like the compass, how people landed. I mean,
mhm,
people really struggle to build Liberia. And when I think about it, it's like No lazy person would have done this. Now, when I see even the nation today going the way it's going, are we serious to build a nation? Those who, like, I read about Paul Coffey, right? Just before independent, I was doing some of the research. I came about this. And this guy being a navigator, there's so much said about him and how they transported slaves to Africa. But we don't want to go into history today. I don't think that's the main purpose for even this program.
Yeah.
Liberia is where it is. Do you think we all respect the Constitution as people? Look at the preamble, the way it speaks. Do you think official citizens, do we respect the law of the land? Are we
Jensen,
respecters of the law?
Jensen, we still have a serious problem with the implementation of the Constitution as a country. And one of the reasons is that I think it's because of ignorance. Look, I can tell you, comrade, we you know, in my book, this is one of the recommendations I have made. We need to redocument the history of Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The history of Liberia.
I think I agree with you, Arthur. And this is if we don't get nothing from this first edition of our discussion, that's one serious recommendation you just emphasized.
Yeah.
There's a serious need to either the law commission, or there must be a commission.
No, it can't be a law commission. This is
okay.
what, to me, what I look at is this is what we need to do, Jensen.
Right.
The first pillar for peace and reconciliation in Liberia is to rewrite the history.
Right.
We don't know what really went on. We don't know what happened before the colonists came. We don't know what happened during slavery. We don't know what happened prior to slavery, that we have an agreed upon agenda about the facts. We need to do that. Because history, Jensen, is the raw material that political scientists or political science uses to promulgate political policies. When the
I agree with you 100%, because if even you get on the internet to search for certain information, there's a lot of scattered information out there. There are a lot of different opinions, different versions, and all of those things. So Liberia's identity, it shouldn't be in crisis. And to do that, I agree with you that there's a need, those who are in governance, those who are controlling the resources, to set a commission or whatever they're going to call it, to really go into doing thorough research. Make sure they synthesize and get the fact of.
Put all the scholars together. That's what we need to be doing now. Put all the scholars, the historians, those that are in the diaspora, those that are here, historians, public administrators, political scientists, people who have an idea on the history of the public administration, the legal history of Liberia. They come, you have a national conference to first of all set the agenda. The Liberian government sets, fight and support that particular concept, that we need to redocument. Because when you redocument, you see the second, look at the second portion of element of the preamble. It says realizing our own experiences prior to 1980. What it's telling you is that all the things that happened in 1980, now just very few persons will look at this thing, they will not understand it. Only you and myself, or readers of political science, readers of law, legal practitioners who will understand what they call preamble. We understand and say, no, this thing is talking about going back to the past, that there were a lot of experiences that went on and for which the Constitution trying to satisfy. That is what the preamble is saying. So you're talking about what? Like what we're just discussing now. We talk about what? The Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is an element of fact and evidence to show to you that there was a problem at the stage of the formation of the Liberian state, that the people who came only recognized and appreciated themselves. In fact, they use the word accession of the natives.
Okay.
We as citizens causing the natives to access to our religion and to our system of governance. Because first of all, when they came, there were other people who had religions around here. Okay, let's look at the VAR. The VARs were practicing Islam. You get what I'm trying to say?
Most of the VARs still do that today, right?
Exactly. And then you have the Mandingos from Bopolu there all the way in Boso, where they invited they call him Chief Bosun. When we were reading Heroes and Heroines of Liberia in the 70s, they said Chief Bosun, but he was King Bosun. I want to learn that way. Okay, I want to do that.
But I mean, I don't. It's really a serious issue, because let's 20 years, 30 years, people hate to say this, right? When we all should have been gone out of the scene, or you don't when there's no effort to document these historical facts, the young people coming up, maybe education may be diminished, people may not be thinking about these kind of ideas.
Yes.
So we hope those who are monitoring, those who are listening, will also take interest in making sure that.
But interestingly, Jensen, I'm not cutting you up. The
Yeah, go ahead.
TRC's report it recommended that there
Okay.
must be a redocumentation of the past. What I expect and what I think the government of Liberia needs to do now is to hell on, start this process now until we can go to next year.
Okay.
Get Liberian
That's a good
scholars.
plan.
Yeah, get Liberian scholars out of Liberia. That would be a major and serious legacy for the regime.
Right.
That you have redocumented the history, so that when our children are reading, they will say there was nothing like Chief Boswin. There were King Saboso. Yeah,
Right.
when they were reading, they will say, "Oh yeah, our land portion or it was in Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast used to take them." They say, "Oh yeah, when the country came about, when the poor came, although they acknowledged that indeed that they are Christian religion, but there were religions on the ground. So there
Right.
was that was an error on the part of the elite at the time, which in fact affected Liberia today up to this point." That's why you see the preamble of the 1986 Constitution tries to deal with all of those issues and say, look, you established Liberia on Christian principles, but you acknowledge that when you met people here, there were religions here that your Christianity met. Why you did not incorporate them in the political process? You didn't. And in fact, the evidence shows, because this is the Declaration of Independence. Anybody can go to Google Scholar and say Google said, because some people around here say Google said that. Go Google Scholar.
There's a lot of good search engines around, but let's look at this other element: rights to a framework of a government. I mean, there are enumerated rights, right? But we don't going to do it on the fundamental rights here today, and or enumerated or unenumerated rights. But the right to form a government, that alienable right. Sometimes I think whether Liberia can stand on its own. Even though you have formed a government, you have three branches of government. But can this country called Liberia, let us assume this country was, there was no resources from outside. Can Liberia make it? It said that we are an independent state. Even though you have formed a government as per the preamble, but can Liberia stand as an independent state? What are some of the resources it can rely on to say, okay, we can rely on this, to support our people, to support our programs, and make ourselves better? I was talking about this country that's fighting Russia, Ukraine. If you study Ukraine is a small nation, but it's powerful. Right now, even the grains that is that is on the Dark Sea. I'm thinking about Liberia. Liberia has a vast forest, unlike country like Ukraine. But Liberia cannot feed herself. Yet, you said we have right to a framework of a government. What do you think?
Jensen, to be frank with you, all of this boils down to what? Not knowing where we come from and who we are.
Okay.
When I told you we need to redocument our past to know our problems. Jensen, when people do not have an institutionalized reservoir or depository, that they are reminded of their identity and their history, they will make mistakes repeatedly. One of our colleagues, Councillor Africano Gavler, I was following in the last, and he even raised the same issue. He said the rewriting of the Liberian history on the basis of facts is the major issue for political governance and stability and unity and reconciliation in Liberia. And I agree with him 100%. Many of our public policy administrators must be aware of the history and the past to be able to. In terms of Liberia being able to support ourselves, yes, but we have to be strategic, even in public administration or public policy administration. You must be strategic in the promulgation of public policy. You would like to do more than 10,000 things, but you got to be strategic with one that will get you near it to the letter.
Yeah, you want to build roads, you build roads until you can get that international standard.
That's it. So first of all, let's be strategic. I welcome the government's position in the road issue that they say, but we need to be more strategic. For example, when we say we're building roads, we say, let us forget about building the roads that we can build that will be substandard, where at the end of the day, in the next rainy season, people to come. But let's be strategic. We say, look, we want to feed ourselves. Like I like what they're doing now for Nimba. Another bread basket again is Lofa Kante. Connect Lofa. Open the road. Let it be an international standard where people will take food from over there and be able to work. Because when the roads are open, Jancy, let me give you one instance. Like one time, jokingly, I was telling one of my colleagues, most of our colleagues in the legal profession from Nimba, who are from Nimba, you know that every child little guys on their way going to Nimba to spend their weekends, nobody wants to be in the city. So when the counters are open and people know that they are able to go into these places, when investment comes, the guys, because the business guys calculate, first of all, what it will cost them to open the road to go into a particular country to establish their investments, and how much it will cost them before even starting with their facilities and what have you. So the first thing is
let me just remind you strictly in the preamble. I think this is important. Exercising our natural, inherent, and inalienable rights to establish a framework of government for the purpose of promoting unity, liberty, peace, stability, equality, justice, and human rights under the rule of law.
They intentionally put the elements in chronology.
Okay.
What the frameworks did first, you see, they acknowledge first that God, the presence of God.
Right.
They knew that there was an error with the issue of the recognition of God. And they just certain person just felt that under their faith. Now, the first element say no, divine blessings of God, all of us, but not God. Two, the next thing they did, they say, building on our experience of the past, coming to 1980, what we experienced, we established the Constitution. Then when they did that, they came to the tier one now, the respect for fundamental rights, because they knew very well that these rights were disrespected from the day the laws were established. So that the new government that is coming into place, the Second Republic, must recognize that the inalienable rights that we are talking about, the right to life, liberty, the framework of government, the respect, the political and respecting for people of the both politically, for their political background, economic background, what kind of background, they must also be one. He said when we establish that framework that will incorporate all of these things, then the next thing, which is not even the last, which they say, well, the next thing is law.
Yes. The rule of law. Yeah. Honor the rule of law.
Honor the rule of law. It's in the tolerance for one another. That has been one of the problems. Respect for the view. No one must feel that. Like for instance, if we are talking on this radio or on a program, Jency, no one should feel and tell his other colleagues, say, shut your mouth.
Right.
Like it happens on certain platforms all around the place that people just go there and they call somebody, oh my man, you're talking this, you're talking that, you're talking that. The Constitution realized that these are the issues that were fundamental in the establishment of the state. So there must be tolerance.
Right.
No one is more liberal than other.
Right.
So when a man comes out and expresses frustration about how he feels about governance at a particular area or location or time, he's speaking from his perspective.
Right.
You don't
and
need
he
to tell
has right. He has that alienable right to.
When you tell him, say, shut your mouth, nobody will listen to you. You fully man. You don't know what you're saying for the excuse for the expression. Then you disrespecting his constitutional right.
Right. So I mean, just like that. I think that's what I was talking about earlier before we came on, right? And if you were to raise any hypothetical situation, that would be just one of that. All right. Exactly. Just say, shut them off. I mean, what do you know, sir?
Yeah.
You know,
what you know about? You don't know what
we're talking about. Abusing that person inalienable right. That person's fundamental right is being abused. So that person can take you to court, right?
Exactly.
And we use this preamble to sue and get justice or whatever the court may grant.
And many of the people who do that, they are not aware of these laws. That's why you see the Constitution, they posted, they must teach the Constitution in the schools.
Right. And that obligation is on the government.
Yeah. They should teach the Constitution in the schools, because many of the people who are doing this, they are doing it out of ignorance. You will be surprised. Some people tell you, say, in a political debate, they can cause anybody. They say they have immunity.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
in this country, in Liberia, I'm telling you, Jensen, Liberia is the only country a person will get on in Africa, yeah, in the world that so far, a man will be brave and get on the media and cause another man and he say, my man, that free speech.
No, there's an
It's
abuse.
no, the reason, no, the reason is, Jensen,
Yeah,
that's ignorance of the
right.
Constitution.
That's so
People
true.
don't read the law. They're not aware of it. That's why there's a need to teach the law. And also, I also hold our political leaders responsible. Political leaders who are their followers are not controlling their followers, and their followers they know and they are aware of what their followers are doing. They are destroying the moral fabrics of the country. Because look, let me tell you something. When you are a leader, you have more than 10,000 followers, and you go on the media, on a Facebook platform, and insult people. The children that are following you, Jensen, believe that indeed it is a normal thing to do.
Okay,
It's an ignorance of the Constitution.
that's so
So
true.
that's why the preamble says when you do that, but it's not really saying it specifically. When the person with the eye, with the legal eye,
Yeah.
I can read the preamble. It said, no, it means that respect, having tolerance for one another, love for one another. It means that whatever the man says, expressing his view about his perception and views, not insulting anybody, but he's sharing his discomfort, it is right to express himself. That freedom of
Another
expression.
thing, yeah, I think we've gone above the time we said earlier, but we just have 9 more minutes.
Yeah,
We
yeah, we
have
just gotta do it quick
another,
because
another
I got one
issue.
class on Zoom.
Yeah, another issue that is emphasized here is why did the Freemasons put in the Constitution our obligation to promote African unity? Our obligation, meaning I would think Liberia's obligation to promote African unity.
I think that one of the reasons, yeah, Jensen, I will recommend you to buy the book in the States that they call it the Liberian Diplomacy.
Mhm.
It was written by Joseph E. Holloway.
Okay.
Yeah, in 1981, when he was writing his doctoral dissertation.
Mm. Well, sorry, I think after his there's an interference in his internet, I will assume, and that is affecting him. But as you may be aware, those of you who will be following, this is 2A Radio, the African Action Network radio and television station. We have introduced a program called Constitution of Liberia, Laws in You. Most of you sometimes run into problems. There's no human action that is not context within the laws of the Republic of Liberia. So it's better that you know the Constitution or for you to know the laws. What action can you take? There's absolutely nothing that you do that should not be in accordance with the laws of the Republic. So we have started this program with the sole purpose of helping to give you some, or you and us can have a dialogue, a discussion on the Constitution of Liberia, the laws, and some of the problems that you think you can encounter that may just be. You heard others talking about um, someone who just get on the media and begin to insult another person. Is that person uh, abusing a fundamental right of another person? The preamble is saying yes. You cannot get on any social media or any public sphere to insult other people. If you do that, you have your right, the next person has, and so you'll be fundamentally abusing the right of another person. So this is where we are. It's not about just having fanfare. We have interest in bringing you on the show, and then to also have your say if you think you have any. But as I said, today we have with us actor Tamabayo Johnson. I will call him the prospective Chief Justice. He's a young, brilliant
Don't
young
put
man.
me in trouble.
And so this is where we are. But we are being focused on looking at the preamble of the Constitution. We will go down segment by segment in looking at the Liberian Constitution. But for the purpose of today, and time is fast spent, Ato, you were talking about tolerance and understanding as a people and being fully mindful of our obligation to promote African unity and international peace and cooperation.
Yeah. What I was saying there is that the the Liberian diplomatic history.
Mhm.
In that particular documentary, that
Book.
Dr. Holloway, Joseph
Mhm.
E. Holloway, he wrote on Liberia, and he said he used Liberia because he wrote the book in 1981, writing his doctoral dissertation. He decided to write on Liberia. They call it the Liberian diplomacy and inter-African relations and studies. He purposely documented that, look, Liberia was identified as the agent of the antebellum tradition of the Western culture. Liberia was used to destabilize African unity.
Mhm.
Yeah. Liberia was actually not in support of African unity, President Todman at the time, because the African blacks at the time, that time, they had what we call this Cold War issue.
Right.
And America, there was a fight for the balance of power. There, you had the issue of supremacy and influence, the East and the West.
Mm.
Russia, most of the revolutionaries were people who believed in the socialist ideologies and what have you. So America was also too skeptical, and so they were always careful. They were always using Liberia as this particular stabilizing force. To some extent, he said, in fact, like Liberia was used to be spies for the
Okay.
CIA against the African unity. Read his book, Dr.
Okay.
Holloway.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as I say again, time is fast spent at all. And in the I think this is the last paragraph or the phrase that says, not phrase, this is it says peace and cooperation. It said, do, that means we do hereby solemnly make, establish, proclaim, and publish this constitution for the governance of the Republic of Liberia. So I call it the resolution. Having enumerated all of those things, they say,
Yeah.
okay, for us now as a people, we will make this constitution to serve as our guide.
Yeah. So that's what read it. So in order for us to accomplish that, because Liberian history, through all our process in the struggle, we have always not really been strong in African unity and solidarity. Let me be
Okay.
frank with you. Yeah, we have not. That's why
But
you
I
see
think you don't think Liberia has been in the forefront when it comes to
no.
looking at
Tottenham was
the
using
OAU formation and
that was the OAU. That was a time. If you found out, that was a time. Tottenham was using the policy of buying time. That what Dr. Holloway said. The
okay.
policy of buying time was that because Nkrumah on the argument was
So sorry, my man. I'm so close to
yeah.
yeah.
Nkrumah's argument was let Africa unite now. Other countries or other nations that will be independent will just join us. Todman said no. What we do is that let's use the policy of buying time, let all of them get independence, then later again. He knew it because at the end of the day, when these countries have come to independence, then he will start convincing and say, look, but you cannot surrender your sovereignty and freedom that you have just won.
I'm not cutting you off. I don't want us to go beyond the 1 hour. So I know you have a thick skin, right? Somebody is making some comment here, and I don't just want to throw out. But I know actor. This is George Nomo, right? He says, "Can your guest comment on the stolen asset recovery program? Was he the author of one of the authors of the document creating the stolen asset recovery program?" Well, Mr. Nomo, we are not here to discuss about the asset recovery program. This is an introduction of a program, constitution, laws, and you. Right, and he also right. I don't think that Arthur has the legal eye and ear. Meaning, when I said this is a prospective chief justice, he said he is too crook to be a chief justice. That's your opinion, Mr. Numbo. And Arthur, as I said, I know you. We studied together. I know how powerful you are when it comes to the pen, and the fact that you are displayed. As I said, I have not been in an impeachment trial. You have been there, and I saw you and the current chief justice, bringing back and forth, and that was something amazing, right? But you care to make any comment on Mr. Nomo's comment here before we close? We have just 1 minute, and maybe from that you just close.
Maybe I think Mr. Noble wants some clarity.
Yes, I think that's what he wants.
Yeah, but the manner in which he's doing it, maybe.
Yeah,
Like when you just say I get skin, those things don't move. My man, we in Liberia,
I
Liberia is
know.
a country people don't respect people, so I don't care for that. But no, but I think this is your issue. I was on the asset recovery as chairman of the asset recovery. I recovered close to
I said you had
450,000.
1 minute. I just
Yeah,
summarize on that. Yeah,
yeah.
the focus is
I
not.
have I was able to recover over $450,000, and then we were able to turn everything over to the government of Liberia. We asked the Ministry of Finance to open an account, and we put that money into the account. We had no signatory authority to that account. It's there with the government of Liberia before I resigned. Yes. On the issue of whether or not I don't have the legal eye, our actions also can determine who we are. So for me, I have nothing to prove to anybody, my brother. I have
Okay,
nothing to prove.
okay.
My
And
actions will
I
show
really
actually
didn't know
where I am.
that
And
too.
I'm not eyeing for anything different. I'm
I
only
didn't
making
know.
sure what I
I
love.
thought
That was my profession, and now my own work.
that's good. But I was asking. I didn't know that you people recover some money and that money was deposited
Yeah,
into a government account. Hello, Ato? Okay, that's how we
of
did.
course, yeah. The government
Okay,
has it.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
the
good.
government
That's
has
good.
it.
So no more. So that's it. Ato
Yeah,
said they
in the government
recover
account. In
more
fact,
than
it was the
400
Ministry of
plus
Finance that
thousand
opened
dollars.
that account. So when people came and made restitution, I told instructed the agents and we deposited them. So it's there. The records are there.
Okay, okay, that's
The
very
records
good.
are there.
Maybe one of the day we might, I mean, raise those kind of issues because it's good. Liberian people are not reading and people are not aware of some of the basic information. And government also, she's not providing some of the basic information. If there was an asset recovery and there was money recovered, the details should have been published so that I mean, Mr. Numo and others can be aware of the kind of situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought this is how we want to draw the curtain for today, Arthur, and this is just the beginning of our discussion on the Constitution of Liberia. If you have your comment on the Constitution, the preamble, hey, just make a comment right below. Until Friday, we're going to be here again with the same program, Constitution, Law, and You. But before we close, these are some of the names. Just go below to go on this program. You see the National Constitutional Commissioners. You have Amos Sawyer, you have DK or Wonsilie. He was the co-chair. You have Robert G. W. Azango. You have J. Gomi N. Balafe. I think that was Professor Balafe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You have J. Imaya Berry,
Yeah,
George
yeah.
G. Brown,
My
member
brother,
Augustus F. King,
he's a
member
lawyer.
H. Benman Family Sr., member Bangale Fofana, member. You have Abraham L. James, member, Peter A. Johnson, member, David Pomapo, member, Henry G. Kwekwe, member, Albert Polt, member, Patrick Ellen Sayan, may also rest in peace. All of them may also rest in peace, those who are passed. Member J. T. Tape, member, S. Barronta, member, B. Momatoba, member, Wallatopa, member, Becca Way, Wilson, member, Tuan Rev, member. These were the commissioners of the National Constitutional Commission. Ata, for purposes of today's discussion, I think I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you'll be prepared to be with us on Friday. Until then,
Oh, sure. I will.
yeah.
I will be there Friday.
the next time, join us. This is Two-Way Radio. We are glad to be here, and join us next Friday. Arthur Johnson will be here. We discuss the fundamental rights of Liberia Constitution. Thank you, and bye for now.